What's less famous is something he wrote in 2009, I think also deserves some remembrance and attention today. In an opinion piece in a West Virginia newspaper, Byrd took on some of the most disingenuous arguments offered by his own home state's big coal barons in defense of the status quo. He chastised Big Coal for, quote, scapegoating and stoking fear among workers, and he called for an open and honest dialogue about coal's future in West Virginia. If a 92-year-old senator from a coal-producing state can recognize the need for us to change our relationship to coal, then I think anyone can. For more on the late senator's legacy on that front, let me bring in Kate Sheppard, environmental reporter for Mother Jones, joining us from Phoenix, Arizona. How you doing, Kate?
I'm excellent. Thank you, Chris. How are you?
I'm good. So it's been interesting to watch the coal state representatives as this climate change bill has moved through. And I think that Senator Byrd, even if he wasn't necessarily a profile in courage, was much more frank and open-minded, it seemed, about the future of coal and the need to kind of move past it than a lot of his colleagues have been.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if we look back in 1997, this is a senator who sponsored the bill in the Senate that would essentially say the U.S. was not going to sign on to the Kyoto Protocol and would not be part of any international agreement on climate change. And then, you know, he voted against almost every climate bill or major piece of emissions control legislation that was out there for years and years. And then last year we have him writing this great op-ed that says basically that coal needs to embrace the future, that we need to think critically about what role that will play and how that will affect people in West Virginia and West Virginia workers. This was a big turnaround for a senator from a state which last year declared coal the state rock. I mean, that was a huge deal for him to call on this industry to really, you know, get with the times and adapt. And I think that really should be part of his legacy, that he was on the right side of history on this. Just a few weeks ago, one of the last votes he took in the Senate was to uphold the EPA's authority to regulate emissions, you know, to allow this agency to act on climate change. And his colleague from West Virginia, yes, Jay Rockefeller, voted against that. So
yeah, let's talk about the junior senator from West Virginia, because I think there's an interesting distinction to be made here. Whereas Senator Byrd, the late Senator Byrd, seemed to manage to kind of come around at the end of his life to understanding that a future for West Virginia has to be a future that is not as solely dependent on coal. It doesn't seem like Senator Rockefeller has made that leap.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think what we're seeing here with Senator Byrd is that he was realizing here in his last years, he probably realized he wasn't going to run again. He really was, I think, out there looking at for the interests of workers in the state and for the future of the state. You know, he wasn't thinking about the coal industry. He was thinking about workers and realizing that coal is no longer the biggest employer in West Virginia. It's Walmart now. I mean, it's totally a different economy there, and will continue to change. And I think he was seeing that on the horizon and really wanted to do the right thing on that issue.
And one of the things I think is so interesting is that, you know, if you look at if you sort of graph coal jobs in West Virginia and other states, I mean, the mechanization of coal, particularly with mountain town removal, means that all these coal jobs, and obviously there are a lot of people working in coal mines, as we learn tragically every time something goes wrong in them, but it really has been on a secular decline for a long time. And, you know, I wonder if do you see any daylight amongst other coal state reps that are thinking in the way that Senator Byrd was as he demonstrated in that op-ed?
You know, not as much as I'd like to see on this issue, but we have seen some others turn around. You know, we've had some of some other coal state Democrats talk about the potential for wind. I mean, it's really important when you think about the fact that in 2008, wind jobs surpassed the number of jobs in coal mining here in the U.S. I mean, I think some people are beginning to think more realistically about that as, you know, an employment reality. Whether they've grasped that as a political reality, I mean, coal is still very powerful despite the fact that it doesn't employ as many people as it used to. You know, some senators are starting to change, and I think Byrd was really kind of at the forefront of that.
Kate Sheppard from Mother Jones, thanks so much for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Coming up, the Gulf Coast is getting pounded with oil. Workers are doing whatever they can